seems to have been reintroduced, and Jubilee leaders have reacted angrily at the comments made by opposition leader Raila Odinga that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto should have been locked up at the International Criminal Court. Jubilee says Odinga's statement supports their claims that the court leader is scheming with foreign powers to engineer a regime change in Kenya. Let's see this story by Jackie Maribe.
The ghosts of ICC have come back to haunt the nation, specifically its leadership that successfully rode on the ICC wave of fear to seek office in 2013. But it is these utterances from court leader Raila Odinga that have informed a new conversation ahead of the coming poll.
Wastakiwa na kama vile Bwana Uhuru Kenyatta wanakuwa ndani ya sel mpaka kesi ipishe. Lakini ICC limehurumia. Kwa hivyo yeye natakana atoe pongezi na shukrani kwa ICC. Si kusema tu Kenya itatoka kwa ICC.
Only a day later, Jubilee leaders would train their guns on Odinga, accusing him of working in cahoots with Western powers to institute a regime change in the 2017 polls.
He and his masters attempted, without success, to use the ICC for regime change, but Kenyans rebuffed his political machinization. Odinga and his foreign masters still view the ICC as a useful instrument for regime change.
President Kenyatta's Jamhuri Day reiteration that the country was on the way out of the Hague Court, sparking off debate that pundits say will form a huge bulk of the 2017 agenda on both political divides.
We will therefore need to give serious thought to our membership.
Kenya itabaki kwa ICC. Uhuru na wenzake wapende wasipende.
As a country, we must reject this mentality that we will be held at ransom. That if one person does not win the presidency, this country will go to violence. And I think this is really the crux of the matter.
A confidential government document seen by Citizen TV that suggests that Western powers had set aside an equivalent of at least 10 billion shillings to civil education activities, informing President Kenyatta's stern warning, compounding the back and forth even further.
There's not a thing that we as a partner of Kenya do that is not consulted with the government of Kenya.
It is essentially drawing the battle lines ahead of the elections now 8 months away. And while CORD had appeared to be putting Jubilee consistently on the defense, Jubilee now believes on the flip side it is time to make a CORD leader Raila Odinga answer to his statements. Jackie Maribe, Citizen TV in Nairobi.
Is that an introduction of the ICC debate that we want to discuss now with my panelists, and of course the ICC or cases at the ICC were formed quite a huge chunk of the agenda in the last elections, 2013. It could be argued that the ICC was the main reason why Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto actually got elected. They galvanized people around their cases, and the push to actually move away from the ICC, to get Kenya to withdraw from the ICC, and that was the main point. And we are seeing that 8 months down the line, 8 months to the next general election, the ICC debate is being introduced. Surely, is it a valid debate right now? Is it the main agenda going into the next elections?
Yes, it is, because now when you look at the ICC, it's a court that has been mooted with a view of oppressing black people.
But is it still a problem at this point in time?
Yes, it is, because we know, first and foremost, it can be used for politics. And there is every evidence that it is intended to be used for politics. So that's, for instance, if the opposition lose, and then the government of the day wins, and then maybe we do have some chaos, those chaos are going to be blamed on the government, and there will be some effort probably to capture our leaders by the ICC. It happened in Cote d'Ivoire. Most likely it may happen here in Kenya again, where you see that court is playing into domestic politics of that country, particularly the outcome of a free and fair polls. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. But apart from the ICC angle, we also need to interrogate the whole idea of NGOs, political NGOs. We have several NGOs doing a very good work. Those ones dealing with health, those ones dealing with education, fine. But the political NGOs, we need to interrogate their role in this society. And the reason I say so is because the whole idea of NGOs is a decoy by the Western government to manipulate other countries. Because, of course, we have what we call formal relationships between State A and State B. Those ones are conducted through diplomats. But they came up with another idea. That is, a powerful country dictating what you're doing, but you don't see it. It's a decoy. So you hide it under the rules called NGOs and civil society. So you don't see the Westerner. You don't see the Mzungu there. But indeed, it is the one, he's the one holding the lever.
Senator Hassan Omar, of course, it is the president. Let's be fair, it is the president who reintroduced this debate in his Jamhuri Day speech.
That's right.
And not Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga was simply reacting to him. But surely, do you understand where the president was probably coming from when he highlighted this matter?
The president is not foolish. He knows that his case has not been terminated, contrary to popular opinion. His case is simply inactive. That if that witness 5 or whatever his name is withdrew, so suddenly decides that he wants to come back into the case, all these witnesses, these allegations of lack of state cooperation or tampering with witness evidence, if all these matters were addressed conclusively, those cases can still come back and be concluded. So the matters were not withdrawn, contrary to popular perception.
So there is a sense of fear in the president.
So if in the event there's a change of regime or change of government, and you have people who want to fight impunity, like the court leadership, and they decide that they will give part of the support the ICC does require in terms of evidence, in terms of documents, those cases can be concluded. So I think what you need to do is, but even if we withdrew from the ICC at this point, it will not affect the Kenya 1 and 2 situation that is already before the ICC. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with what Raila Odinga said. Raila Odinga said the court exercised the discretion not to confine you at the time your trial was going on. You see, ICC has 2 discretions. They can issue a warrant of arrest that you are detained at the time of trial, or they can give you conditions to attend trial. So William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta were given conditions in terms of attendance of trial. In fact, there has been critique of the Kenyan situation by some people who are within the circles of international justice, and they said that's where the rain started to beat the ICC. Probably they should have used their powers of arrest, and therefore, because then it led to massive interference of witnesses. It led to massive, lack of cooperation by the state. And if you look at the ruling that set aside the matters at this point in time, deactivated the cases, it all led to massive, what do you call this, findings of lack of state cooperation, lack of interference by certain people. And I asked my brother Irungu Kenyatta, you're a young guy, I met you in the university, to start using that argument that the ICC court is for black people. Black people, if you're a black person and you're killing your countrymen, you need to be punished.
No, but what about Assad?
So even if it is...
What about the killings in Aleppo, Syria?
What about them?
No one is being taken before the ICC, notwithstanding mass murders is happening in Aleppo City.
The war is active. The war is active. Listen, the war is active. When the war is active,
what about
you have to
what about George Bush?
You see, this is the kind of...
What about Tony Blair? What about George Bush?
Argument.
They killed millions in Iraq.
Let's move to the kind of
killed millions in Iraq. Prove it. We have evidence. Everyone knows. Millions in Iraq. No one has been punished for that.
What kind of ICC debate? You can see how emotive it is. 8 months to the election. Should we really be talking about the ICC? How does it play into the Kenya situation right now? This is 2016, not 2013.
It is playing now because the spin doctors of Jubilee who advised Uhuru told him exactly what he did. Uhuru is desperate to replay 2013, where him and Ruto, they relied on ethnic mobilization. And the easiest way was ICC. Listening to Uhuru on that day, you could hear a president saying that it is possible I'm going to be defeated. Then, based on that fear, what Senator Hassan has said applies. He knows that the cases at the ICC have not been terminated, and therefore, if he loses, when court takes over, he fears that court would revisit the case. That's all. And now, he wants to harp on that, to hype it, so that it becomes again an election issue. When you listen to young Irungu, on behalf of the people who died, I caution you, don't you think that because post-election violence weighed itself in such a manner that your part of this country did not witness violence, as we saw in Kakamega, as we saw in Coast, as we saw in Nairobi, as we saw in Kisumu and Eldoret? Don't you think that subsequent post-election violence would not visit violence in your area? And before I listen to you, and you must listen to me. You need, my brother, to protect a situation whereby a stupid African leader, a black man, kills his people and says that nobody will ask me, simply because another foolish man in the Far East also did the same. We as blacks, we also must break the frontiers of good leadership.
And since when did he so suddenly become an advocate for Syria and Aleppo?
Please.
No. I've been talking about these issues.
Even my son who is a lawyer, I suspect he doesn't even know Aleppo is.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Now that you say it is a Jubilee PR stunt, that they're trying, it's a spin.
Yes.
Was it right, therefore, for Honorable Raila Odinga to play into that spin and actually respond to it? Didn't he just play it? Now we're having that ICC discussion because it was introduced by the president, and you're saying it was spin, but yes, we already discussed it.
Which is why I want to urge, especially young people, educated people from the central part of the country, who have been brought up to believe that Raila is a monster, to stop and listen to the wisdom of what he was saying. He was saying, Jubilee, you went to the ICC for justice, and you got more than other people, including Côte d'Ivoire, got, because you were allowed to remain in office instead of being arrested as your case was going on. So have faith in the ICC. When you go there, they don't play politics.
Was it right for Raila Odinga, before we go to Senator Matani, was it right for Raila Odinga to respond to that issue, if at all it was spin by Jubilee?
Raila was reacting to the fact that we will not withdraw from the ICC, which was a position taken by that convention on that particular day, or that Congress, National Delegates Congress. And secondly, in further cementing the argument, he further said what Dr. Halwale is now saying, that listen, there's evidence that this ICC has been kind to you.
Yes.
That they did not put you in jail, that they allowed you to attend trial on certain conditionalities. So for that reason, have faith in the fact that they have been fair. If they had wanted to humiliate you, they would have released a warrant of arrest, and you will have been a fugitive globally.
Okay, Senator Matangi. Now, Senator Omar and Senator Halwale seem to suggest that the president, in reintroducing this debate, was coming from a point of fear, that he's actually looking ahead and seeing probably he might lose. After all, there are a few presidents, incumbents right now across Africa who've lost elections, including Mahama, who was a one-term president and a very good friend of President Uhuru Kenyatta, that he's looking at this from a point of fear that he might lose the next election and that ICC debate might be introduced at that point. Do you think that is a valid point?
Fred, can I try to put just two very quick issues into perspective? It is good for our viewers to understand this ICC thing, because most of the time when we say we must move out of the ICC, it's not good for the country. There's a fact that's always overlooked: the facts themselves, not the politics. And it is a fact I would rather deal with. Remember, just during the elections in the US, Trump said that the US is going to withdraw its funding from NATO, and once they withdraw their funding from NATO, NATO is going to die. And they have been depending on the funds from the US to carry out the operations. Now, what our people need to understand as facts, not as politics, are two things. One, the ICC is an appendage of the United Nations, of the UN. Now, the UN is a body that operates with funding from all those countries, including the US, including the Germany and France, and all. They are the ones who fund the UN to go and put bread on their table, buy newspapers, and without that funding, the UN cannot operate. That's how they operate. Now, the court in ICC receives these funds to operate from these countries. So for that court to open its door in the morning, and those judges to receive their salaries, and for them to have a glass of water, money must come from the US. It must come from Germany. It must come from the other people. And that is how that court exists. Now, those are the stakeholders of that particular court. Now, remember, and I want to urge my two colleagues here, let's first move away from the politics. Let's deal with the facts. You see, we are a country that got independence just 50 years ago. Who are our colonizers? Our colonizers were those people. They were Britain, in other countries in Africa, our other colonizers were that Germany, and all over. Who has taken over our economic power? It's those countries. Now, when they sit over our system, and remember, the first important thing to any country is the interest of that country and the people of that country. You cannot tell me that in Germany or the US, they'll have the interests of Kenyans first and forget the interest of the US people. Now, this is what I'm saying. So, when it comes to running the court of the ICC, and I say forget the politics, let's deal with facts, period. You see, when that court sits, and those people will be asking, what are our masters saying? The masters will be saying, now look at this, in a regime in either Kenya or Togo or Ghana or any other country, a regime that is led by Wamatangi would be good for us. Why? Because Wamatangi is our friend. If he did this and that, he can help us. But remember, these are the same people who came here carrying a Bible and took our land. This is the point. Now whether you like it or not, now listen. Let me. You also said you are listened to. You told Kangata he listened to you, so you must listen to me.
I am listening.
Yes.
Senator.
Now listen. There is no single day, unless you want to cheat this country, there is no single day when the mentality of the people who colonized us changed. But it doesn't. It has not changed. And so you're not going to say... Let me first make my point. Just they took our brother. Now listen. Yes, first I want to make my point to Halwale, and then I'll answer your question. You see, how can you come here on national TV to argue that the people who put our people in chains and took them to Mombasa in ships to go and labor for them are the same people you're saying now have become... Can you relax with response? No, so my point is, I want to summarize it this way. I want to answer this question. The interests that play at the ICC are the interests of the people who fund. There is no way, Edie, you can sit here in Citizen TV. The owner of this TV station is known. If he says that the broadcast of this station, which I pay for, this is the time you open the doors, this is what you say, this is what, who are you to say no?
Point made. Yes. But now the question is, for a number of months this whole year, that ICC issue has not come up. And the President and the Jubilee administration has not been discussing ICC at all.
Yes.
What motivated the reintroduction of that debate?
Now listen, I can tell you, this is my point. I'll answer you. Let me answer you. It's very simple.
Because they seem to suggest it's from a point of fear.
Now, that is the Senator Halwale version, and he is right to see it the way he likes. He would want to see it because he's a politician, and it plays one way or the other into his political mind. Okay. But this debate has never died. It has always been there. Remember, almost all the countries in Africa which have been in ICC have held this debate live all the time, including some of them withdrawing. And some of them having active debates that they're going to withdraw. Actually, in our Kenyan context, this debate never died. When did it die? Because one, we never withdrew, and secondly, we have not also finalized the process that we started in Parliament of going to withdraw. So and that was absolutely the statement. And I want to make this also clear because my colleagues here have talked about what Honorable Raila said during the Wiper conference. Now see, in political competition, he exactly and precisely said what the strategy was. At that time, the strategy was have these gentlemen jailed. When they are jailed, when the two gentlemen are jailed, we have an opportunity. That was the strategy.
Okay.
And that was speaking to.
I need to give you a chance. I'll give each one of you a chance to wrap up. You're making your final submissions.
Before I make my final, I want to say something.
We won't come back to you after this.
Matangi has made a poor attempt of casting himself as an anti-imperialist.
Yes.
You know, when you want to now, rationalize what he said in political science terms, where a student of political science, and casting himself as a Pan-Africanist. A modern-day Pan-Africanist is, unfortunately, the ones that manifest themselves are also looters of their own economy. They are people who pull the nails of their political opponents. They are the ones who murder their nationals. Pan-Africanism itself is an ideal about actualization of our Africanity. Yeah, ethos of social justice, ethos of transparency and accountability in government, ethos of building an Africa that is rid of corruption, rid of disease, rid of ignorance. So yet you preside over a regime of decadence, and when it's convenient to you, the people who own property in Europe, the people who go for their holidays in Europe. Have you ever had any of these big people going for holiday in China or in Belarus or somewhere? They're all people who love to have U.S. multiple entry visas to the United States, the imperial powers, so to speak, multiple entry visas to Europe. That's where they take their kids to school. That's where they have their holiday homes. That's where they have their resorts. A Western appetite. Where on one side, when it's convenient for them, so suddenly they have become imperialists. You know, so they have their appetite, but they become imperialists because they are called to accountability. They want to destroy an institution of accountability, so suddenly they've become sympathizers of Syria and the people of Syria. Yet there's been an issue going on in the Middle East, on Palestine, and we've given all tacit support to Israel to continue humiliating the people of Palestine. So conveniently, when it works for you, you're asking about Aleppo. So I think, you know, if we put context into these things, it is pure and simple. Genuine Pan-Africanism. Genuine Pan-Africanism.
Our issue is
also
to deal with
about the dignity of the people of Africa.
If you go to politics, you can say anything in politics.
Let us finish, Bana. You talk for 15 minutes.
It's a theory. You take for so long that is only one small point. You take for so long. That means you have no clarity of your ideas. So you take so long to explain one point.
Now our time is running out.
When you are speaking, you're saying no, but no.
Please.
You are theory. You know, you are a pretender.
I'll be forced to end this show.
Please,
I will finish. I'll be forced to end this show.
We're not pretenders.
It's a wrong
theory. Your theory is defeatist.
It's
not a true theory. It's a wrong theory.
For more than 400 years, black man was taken from this African continent to the Western Europe as a slave with no compensation. For about 100 years, black man was oppressed in this country by the Westerners for nothing at all. And after that period, they established a system called neo-colonialism. And I believe ICC is a continuation of that subjugation of the black man. Otherwise, if indeed ICC is a very independent entity, I would want to see George Bush in that court. I would want to see that guy called Blair in that court. Why? These guys, they lie to us that we do have weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They went there. They did not even find one weapon in there. And up to now, no one has been taken to that court to account for that. Right now, there's a lot of bad things happening in Syria. There's nothing that is being taken there. And then you tell me ICC is a court that is fair, whereas every person in that court is a black man. That's very unfair.
Okay. Finally, Senator Halwale.
I want to thank God that Honorable Irungu and Wamatangi have absolutely no chance of ever becoming president in this country. Because with their heads stuck in history and blaming history for our failure to move our country forward, it would be a big disaster for them to ever go into the office of the president. And I want to conclude by saying that we have no time as the united opposition to use ICC as an item for seeking for votes. We will be asking Kenyans to remember how Jubilee has failed to grow our economy. We will be asking Kenyans to remember... So you will
not revisit that issue?
No. We will be asking Kenyans to remember the levels of corruption as we see them today, whereby the corruption has gone right into the family of the president, right into the office of the president, right into the office of the deputy president. Those are the things we shall be reminding Kenyans. We will be reminding Kenyans to remember that Jubilee had a manifesto which they have absolutely failed to implement, and that is how we shall win the next election.
It will not be fair. It will not be fair to let Halwale. Yes, it will not be fair to let Halwale, preach his faith. To preach his faith to us. If he has finally realized that with his style of politics he has absolutely no chance of ever becoming anything beyond what he is, that is not something he should preach to us. I mean, for us, we have our visions. Let me tell you, maybe he or I, there's the same gospel you preached against Uhuru. In 2012, you went around saying these people belong to prison. They can never be president. He should be he's a jailbird. Now, he is president. And let me tell you, my friend, you have no power.
Thank you so much for helping us look at the headlines this morning. That is our news review. Good morning.